Yes, you did, David. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, Walt. So let me ask you this question. Walt has dropped tables at some point in his career. Thank you for sharing. This is a safe space. But here's the question. What do you think, what did your actions do to the data model? Is that something you can tell us? What did your actions do to the data model?
Oh, it was intentional. I never did it by accident on production, but it breaks integrity, right? If there's any kind of secondary keys, those are potentially unconnected then. So yeah, I usually do it in development when I'm trying to save space, and I run scripts. I have automatic scripts that are very dangerous because they go in and they cleanse the whole database on the fly. So but yes, integrity is usually what gets damaged.
Living on the edge, right?
Oh yeah, always. let your Python go.
Thank you for sharing that. Bruno, you've ever dropped tables? Let me ask, was it intentional or unintentional?
Of course, it was unintentional. It took me all night to cover up the mess I made. And
so
already
what did your
actions,
systems? Let me ask you, what did your actions do to the data model?
Well, I didn't drop the table. I just deleted and didn't put any where clause. So it's a classic. Trying to do things at 1 a.m. and I didn't actually I comment the where clause and then I just ran the script and I just noticed that it was taking a lot of time to run, and I start looking at it, what's going on. It's taking too long, and then I realized that I deleted all the user table, and that was it. So no one could log in the application or use anything. So it was really good, a really good experience.
Perfect. Let me admit some more people here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
It was a year at OutSystems and I haven't been fired yet. So I believe I'm in a safe space now saying this, because if I haven't been fired, I won't believe I'll be in the future.
And now you're an expert sharing the ideas and lessons that you learned. So that's perfect.
Well, I like to say that at least I think like this, that your expertise depends on how many times you have just hit the bumps on the road. And that's it. So I have hit some bumps, and that's what I want to share here.
Perfect. All right, we'll start in about 3 minutes here as you take a sip of water, get your pen, paper ready. We like to keep it fun here, casual, but also remember that we are learning from experts. I mean, that's amazing. That's a privilege right there.
I have to say that you're putting the bar too high. Okay, you have to. Not that I'm counting, but you probably said expert like 5 times, so I'm start getting a little bit nervous. Okay.
All right, we will not ask any production.
Some normal person will just talk about data modeling.
All right, we have a normal person talking about data modeling here today. No. We trust your teaching, and we're always here to share. And even the questions that will come from this team here today, I know we can all learn together.
For sure. And one of the things I like in these sessions is that I also learn a lot of things with the questions and with advices and comments. So
that's right.
It's okay to use the chat, or just make questions. It's perfectly fine.
Absolutely. And that leads me to just a rundown of the agenda. We'll start the speech or the technical session in about 3 minutes here at 11:10 local time. That will be by Bruno, who's a normal person, normal/expert person here to talk about data modeling. He'll do that for about 20-30 minutes, and then we'll have a fun round session at around 11:50 for a fun Kahoot session. This is where we've prepared. I spent the whole night preparing just a set of 5 questions, fun though, with Bruno, who we want to see if the data modeling lessons that will come out here today, that you've taken some notes down, and maybe you can even integrate them in your, whether you're a student or a professional, whatever, you can take these lessons home. So we've made a fun round there at the end. So stick till the end. Then we will end at about local time, 12:20 p.m. Just about time we're getting hungry. So get your glass of water ready as we're about to start here. My name is David. I have been an OutSystems developer for about 5 years now. I work in an IT healthcare setup. So seeing the impact of OutSystems in such a setup for such a long time at scale That's why I'm here today facilitating this. So I take passion in OutSystems development and engaging in the community. So I'm happy to join all of you here today and hope that I will be a good host today, an expert / normal host. Let's check our expectations today, right?
Right.
Right, all right. As Bruno prepares to start his session in about a minute, any question that come up, you can use the chat, and there's no stupid questions here. This is a safe space. If you've ever dropped tables, that question is still on the floating end, because I'm more interested in ways in which lessons that we can learn about data modeling, and all kind of lessons are welcome here. So no stupid questions, use the chat. At some point, I will maybe give a session to anybody who wants maybe to talk if you're not able to chat. So, or I'm sorry, to ask a question if you're not able to chat.
Right.
All right, and as I sip my cup of morning Dallas coffee here, Bruno is one of the OutSystems professionals that I was happy to meet and learn on how amazing he is in the community. He loves to talk about things that he's passionate about. Something I didn't get to ask him more of, but I know I will after this speech, is his passion about football, soccer.
No, it's actually football.
It is, oh, so it's American football,
American
not
football,
soccer.
yeah. So I lived in the United States for 1 year, and I
Right.
got completely hooked up on American football.
So
I
you
follow
left
the
us.
games here in Portugal now.
So you left us, the soccer fans, and joined American football. All right, that's a classic move right there. Perfect. But we are all joined by the love of sports. But quickly, Bruno is from Portugal. He has worked in OutSystems since 2014. He has had several roles at OutSystems Professional Services, performing engineering and support roles. He's a developer by heart and an OutSystems enthusiast, just like you and I. And he's a big American football fan since the year he has lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And he's here to talk about how to model your data like a pro. So Bruno, take it away. The platform is yours.
Right, okay, thank you. So let me just share my screen. Let me know if you are all seeing it.
Yes.
So thank you everyone for just loading. Okay, thank you everyone for joining this session. Well, I already had my presentation, so I don't need to talk about me. But I'm going to talk a little bit about what the session will be about. So we're going to talk about data modeling. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that I have some slides, but I will do things in Service Studio. So I'm, like I said, developer at heart. And I even when I'm seeing presentations, I don't like just to see slides. I like to see the real thing coming up, and that's what I'm going to try to do. So if you have questions, feel free, and hope you enjoy. Okay, so first things first is why data modeling? Why are we talking about this? So data modeling can be really complex. It should be simple, but nothing in life is usually as simple as it looks. But maybe the biggest important part here of data modeling has to do with something that's called the future. So everything that we do today with what we are doing in modeling our data will have impact in the future. And the impact can be in terms of performance. It can be in terms of refactoring, because business changes, requirements change, everything changes with time. And also the fact that data for businesses, it's what gives them their real advantage. So I don't know if you're familiar, at least the news here in Portugal, it's that more and more ransomware attacks are being made. It means that the hackers are finding that data can be very lucrative. So they can ask money for data because people are willing to pay for data. So if people are willing to pay for data, maybe we need to look at the data modeling of an application, and that's something that's on the very core of the application, so that everything on top can be built in a solid way. So what I want to share with you is in OutSystems, so the low code platform, and we are doing our data modeling in our Service Studio. Okay, so this is just a brief schema for what we have in the platform. We are going to focus just this part. So we are going to build our data model in Service Studio, but then, and this is what I want to share with you, there's no voodoo here. So we are using relational database. In this case, in the environment that I will be demoing, we are using SQL Server, sorry. And what actually we do is we design the model in Service Studio in the development environment, and then a process of transformation of code generating. It will generate scripts, so it's nothing that you're not aware or used to work with. Like it does create statements, alter statements, drop tables, including. So everything that we are doing will have a physical impact on the tables in the database. So this is something that I wanted to share with you, is that there's a relational database behind this, and what we are doing here will have impact in that real database where the data is. So we're talking about SQL, right? And SQL queries. So this is one of my favorite jokes about SQL queries. Is the fact that a query will always ask two tables if they can be joined. Now we know there are a lot of types to join them, and we're going to maybe talk a little bit about it. But no more lame jokes. So let's talk about this person here. So he's Gordon Know-It-All. Okay, so he's the boss of this company, and he's running the show. This is one of the people that will help me on this presentation. Also, we have Neo. So Neo will be here to assist. So everything that's related with the OutSystems platform, it's going to be covered by Neo. And so I don't know if this ever happened to you. I hope not. But so there's probably one day that the boss gets into the office, he looks at people, he's probably not in a good mood, and he wants an application to be built, like in real fast. So in this case, what does he want? So we are working here in an hotel. Okay, so if we don't want to be fired, and now I'm putting you all in this we to be fired, we need to create an application here for our hotel booking system. So like good boss, it starts with requirements, right? It starts with really basic. So what he says is the hotel has rooms. Okay, so each room will have a number. Some of them, it's not a very fancy hotel, so some of them have air conditioning. And well, the suites and the rooms are classified in these categories like basic, premium, and ultra mega premium. Okay. By the way, the room number, well, it's something like it's just a number here that starts probably with the floor and then the number of that room in the floor. Okay, so this leads us, so we need to build an application that needs to fit this, right? So we need to accommodate this information about the rooms, right? So what Neil is suggesting that probably we can look at this problem and try to find where are the entities, right? So entities, in this case, we have room here. It's a great candidate for this. And then as soon as we have the entity, we need to know what attributes there's inside the entity. And the attributes here, sometimes we need to dig a little bit, but some of them pretty much from what's being said, like some have just AC. But this is some good candidate for how we're going to map this on our database. So it's going to probably be a Boolean here. So what I'm going to do now, well, since I'm just talking, I'm going to show, so I created a module here. And well, let's build this. Okay, we're doing this in OutSystems. So we are going to create an entity here that is the room entity. And if you remember, room had the number, right? And the number, if you see, it's been identified by the IDE as an integer. Well, I think we can accept that because it's going to be 101 or 32. So no letters, no alphanumeric here. So number will integer will be okay. After that, we have the SAC. So if we write this in a certain way, the IDE will detect this it could be a Boolean, right? And well, I think it was something like the room type. It was like mega or premium and something like that. So what we can see here is the attributes so the properties of the attributes. So we have always a description. So description is really good to the best practice say that we should always have what the column is about or the property. But these are the attributes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break the best practices. I won't fill it for now, but there are some interesting things here. So one of them is the type. So this case it's text, but you can choose other data types like date, time, date. There are some other attributes in the platform types like phone numbers and emails. But usually I think that for text, using text is a good idea. So length is important because this will assure what's the size of the data that you have in here. So if remember that if you put this in a very big number here, it will store a lot of memory in the data. It will reserve memory for this in the database that you probably not be using. But if you use a length that is small, maybe then you have content that won't fit the database. It probably needs to be truncated. If not, you will have an error while trying to insert data into it. So mandatory, it's something that it's a constraint that you can define here, and also the default value. So there are things that might have a default value, like for example, imagine that all rooms have air conditioning except if they were broken. You could probably say that its default value would be true. So having this, you can see that it was so the entity was created here, and with the entity that we have some actions already that we can use in the OutSystems logic. So one of them is to create. So to create will receive an entity to create them in the database. A create or update, so we will receive the entity, and if the ID is already filled, it will do an update. If the ID is null, it means that it will create for you. Sorry. Both create and create or update will return the ID that was generated by the database engine. So update in this case, it will receive also this, and you can get a room by its identifier. Okay, so the primary key. So for those who aren't very familiar, so since a relational database, every row should have a primary key. So this is the identifier that identifies each row in the table, and in this case it will be auto numbered. So it will generate a number and that will increment as much as you have data on your table. So you can get a room by passing the ID, and we have something here that is the get room for update. So the difference between using these two is if you need to do some operations like getting one value, in this case a room, do something and then update it. If you have some logic that could have concurrency, you can use this that will reserve that row, and other process cannot be updating that row at the same time as you. So this allows you to safely make sure that you are updating that row and no one is messing up with concurrency. So that's a more advanced use case that is concurrency, but in case you will find this in your feature requirements, keep in mind that's get room for update. And then we have the delete. So now that we have the room here, what I'm going to do real quick, it's since we have to show something to our boss so we don't get fired, just going to create here, I'm going to use the scaffolding just to create really quick some crude screens so I can create, update. Well, in this case, it's not going to delete, but at least to create an update, we can see it. So we can, while we are doing the presentation, we can see what's going on. So the tables have been, these have been created. Just put me this as anonymous so we don't have to have user logins and things like that. So I'm gonna just publish this, and then we can just create a room there, for example. So while this is creating, so again, one important part is to understand what's the entity, and then after the entity, it's to create the attributes for that entity. One aspect, it's also the naming convention. Okay, so there are several people follow the naming convention. I actually follow using Pascal case. Okay, but my advice is that it doesn't really matter. What it's important is for you to have a naming convention. So if you use capital letter here or not, or underscores, what is important is everyone in the organization, everyone that will today and in the future have to deal with this application should follow that naming convention. So that's the most important part. So we now have this. So let's just open this, and we will look at right now. So we have no room. So let's try just to create here a room, right? Room 100. Let's say that is AC, and it's like, I don't know, let's call it premium. And well, we have just created one entity, and we have created data there. So we can go back to our boss and saying that we at least now we have something that can help us manage the rooms in our hotel. So having this said, well, it's something that's not surprising. That is, whenever something is being done, things are changing all the time. So in this case, well, to be more classy, the room names should be different from the ones that were previously set. So now we are using silver, gold, and diamond, okay? So this could be really upset, right? Because we don't have much information here, right? But changing things it's always costly. So one of the good examples that we can see from this is what's called normalization. So what we want to do is that room type that I used as a text, and maybe probably some of you were already scratching themselves when you saw me creating the text. What we can do is to create another entity that is the type of room and associate that entity with the room. What makes this is that will help improving the future changes in these structures. And what we're doing is we are doing relationships between tables using their identifier. So we're not using text, we're just using references, in this case, that are the identifiers that are called, in this case, defined as the primary keys. So let's do that real quick. And to do this, we can use static entities. So the platform allows us, in this case, where we have lists of, it's a really good candidate to create here a static entity. And the static entity, let's call it room type. It really has, well, it allows you to create here records. That means that this is, it's like an enumeration. And you can define not only the identifier, but you can define fields. These are the predefined fields, but you can define more, or you can even delete these ones if it doesn't matter to you. For example, if the order doesn't matter, you can just delete it. So what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to just put the room types here. So first one I think was silver. As you can see, it creates an attribute that is the silver one, and it has the label. I can change the label if I want, right? And I'm going also to get here the gold, right? And I think it was diamond. So I'm going to create diamond. Wait, it's not diamond. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is, instead of the room type here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this. And this has been done on purpose just to show you that whatever we have here, so if we're going to change the data type, what we're going to do in the server, like I was saying, it's an alter table. And when we're doing alter, the data that you have here will be lost. So when we are designing the solutions, we need to think about the future, because this would this operation that we are doing would have us to create a process that we can use, for example, with timers to populate the data, the new table, the new column with the data that you have from the previous one, and then on a second step, delete that column. So right now we don't have to think about that now because we just have one room there. It's not a very big deal, but we need to think about this when we are designing, real application. So what we are going to do is we're going to just drag this here. And now our room will have a room type. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to delete this again. And I'm just going to, scaffold again because I don't want, I'm just going to be a little bit lazy here. And I'm going to then publish this and let's see how this has changed in terms of the logic and the screens that we have on top of our database. So remember, now we had a free text. Now that free text is no longer available and we have a list of entities that we can choose from here. So I'm just gonna, oops. I don't think I was in time. So I'm going to publish this so we can see exactly what is happening. So remember that what we did was to change. So we deleted one of the attributes here and we created a new one. So the data that we had there was not passed here. So we had to build a process for that. So let me just open here. Maybe I need to log in because I didn't put that as anonymous. Let me just put here Vera. Oops. Let me see if this is why I keep things anonymous. Okay. So right now, if you see now that the data is still here, but room type doesn't have information. So if I edit this, you'll see that now we can use a dropdown because that dropdown is going to be bound to the static entity that we have created. So let's say that this one is this diamond, we're going to save, and now we have diamond here. Okay. So take note that in here, what we did was to create, so we are start normalizing our model. So another thing that I wanted to share with you is that it's something that you need to be cautious. That is, so if you do something like this, like cut and then paste, so the structure will be the same. But like I said, whenever we do this publish, we have something. So this while this spinner is rotating, what is happening is that we are generating SQL scripts and running things on the database. So since we copied and paste, we now have a different table here. So although I know it's the same structure, but for the IDE, it's perceived as a new one. So it's just to show you that we need to be careful with this. And what is going to happen right now is that I'm going to check here, and now we have no data because behind the scenes, the physical table has been changed to another table that is empty. So this data that you had will be lost. So be really careful when you are working with this, okay? Now we are already here on the hotel application again. So let's just create this new number. Let's say seats, diamond. Okay, so we're back as we were, okay? But if this was a big application, probably we have already lost some hours of sleep. So let's see what our boss says for us. So let's see what's next on our plate. So, well, he's saying, well, again, another change. So not diamond, platinum, right? So we want to call it platinum and not diamond. So in this case, we will not have problems here because we normalize it. We have a table that is the room type, and let's see what we could do. So if you just wanted to change it, so we are going to change diamond here for platinum. We just need to publish this, and you can check that what we have here, it is having every different icon. It's a room type identifier. So when you have this, it means that you have a foreign key. So in the concepts like sorry, I forgot his name, but he was talking that he deletes the tables and then you can lose integrity. It's because of these foreign keys that become loose. So one of the things that you can check here on the IDE, it's the delete rule. So whenever you have a foreign key, you will have this delete rule. And the delete rule will have three different options. One of them is to protect. What it means is, so you have room and room type. So now I've put platinum. There's a row here that says platinum. So just let's take a look here really quick just to see if this worked. So where we had diamond, now it's platinum, okay? So we have a row here that is already using this platinum. So if I came here and try to delete this, I would get errors because there are already data here and it would lose the integrity because I have the delete rule as protect. Now you can use delete. So what this means is that if you delete something in here, it would delete also the corresponding row in here. Okay, this could be dangerous, but depending on what you're doing, it could be the wise option. And we will see an example of that. And you have the ignore. So ignore won't do anything. And what we'll do is probably some inconsistencies and some garbage in your database. But you have these options and you can do it as you seem fit for your data model. So going back again to the boss. So boss, what do you have to me? So this was really easy. So boss comes here, right? And he says, not trying to insult the intelligence like every day. And I don't need to tell you that room numbers are unique, right? So I have to say that this is pretty obvious, but it's a valid one. So what I want to focus here is the unique index. So what does this mean is that we have constraints in the database that we can apply. Maybe we should, maybe no, we should apply this also on the logic, but it's always a good practice to have this enforced in the data model. Because again, data model is the base, the core, and then you build all the things on top, okay? So to show you how to do that, let me just show you here that if we can check for the tables that we have. We can see the data that we have here also in Service Studio, but we also can we can with edit with that edit option, we can also create indexes. So in this case, from what our boss was telling and the logic says also, what we need to create is a new index, and this new index, maybe we can call it unique room, the unique number. What we're going to say is that, well, again, description, sorry for the not following the best practices. We're going to say that it needs to be unique, and the attribute, it's in this case, it's number. So we could, if you can see that we can create indexes with more than one attribute. So it has to be the same. So to be unique, it means that every value in each one of the attributes is the same. And creating this will now give us create a constraint in the database that will help us to have solid data in our database. Again, don't forget that this should be done also on the logic side. Okay, so you should, the code itself should be aware of these business rules. But if the code has some issue, this constraint that we created won't allow for the data, sorry, I read room, the data in the database to be corrupted. So what it means is if I come here and try to create again room number 100, now it's kind of, I know, silver, and I try to save it, you'll see, well, it's not a decent error, right? For the user, but at least for me in development time, it tells me exactly that I should not be doing this because there's a constraint saying that you can only have one unique value in number, okay? So, so that's what I wanted to share with you about the indexes here. So going back to the boss, let's see what the boss says for us. So boss, it's never happy. So, well, one of the things he says is that rooms have beds, and okay, so the beds we need to manage. It's probably by compliance or regulatory demands that we need to change the matrices every 3 months. So our data model needs to accommodate this. So how are we going to do this? So basically what we need to build here is what's called a relationship one-to-many. So one room, in this case, one entity will have several of other entities. In this case, bed will also be an entity because we know for each bed what's the date that was changed the mattress for the last time. And like this, we will be able to control what we have there for each room, each one of the beds. So let's look how can we do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to create here a new entity, right? It's called bed, and bed will have so let's call it mattress. I'm sorry if I'm doing any typos here. Mattress is changed on. It's going to be daytime, something like mattress changed. Oops, sorry, changed by. It creates a foreign key for a user from the tables of the user identifier, so we can get the user. And well, one of the most important things is this bed belongs to what room. So we can take the room and just say here that the bed belongs to this room. Okay, so to see this a little bit more visually, we can use this diagram. So we can drag the room here. By the way, let's drag the room type. So if you can see the room has one room type and bed. Yeah, so one room can have one or many beds. Okay, so the relationship one-to-many, it means that from this entity to this, it's one-to-many. Okay. Actually, these symbols mean exactly that. So now that we have the beds, well, let's just let me just be really lazy and just create here some screens so we can also have the beds here. So again, in this case, what we're doing is we're saying that we have one entity and the other one. We can have multiple relations from one to many with the other one. In this case, one room can have several beds in it. So let's just push this, and well, the error that was found, it's because we have a drop down here, and we need just to say that the text here comes from the room number. And so that's just to make sure that we are seeing on the drop down the information that we want, and not one that probably the IDE would try to guess and probably not be the one that we would desire. So now we will have this, and we will be able to create the bed. So again, one-to-many, the relationship. Okay, so let's just check here the beds. Okay, let's just open this. So we have now beds here, and you can add a bed. Well, just say that it was like here, and it was changed by someone, and the room, well, we only have one room, so it's on this room. And let's just put another bed also in this room, so we can get data on our database, right? And just, I don't know, so Andrew here and room 100 again. All right, so now we have two beds on the room. Okay, so boss, again, I hope he's happy, because I think we're managing to follow what the AR desires. So he wants to be transparent. So one of the things that is a requirement is that every single room has a real photo. So the difference is maybe when you go to hotels, you just have one photo by room type or several photos by room type. In this case, the requirement is really strict and really simple. Every single room has its real photo. Okay, so what does this mean? Is that in this case, we will have a one-to-one relation. Why will we have a one-to-one relation? So we could just simply go to the room, right, and create a column there or an attribute there that would be the picture, like the binary data for that picture. So what happened is that doing that, we will increase the size of that table. And maybe when we are doing queries, maybe we'll have a lot of rooms, and we don't want to make queries in tables that exist in really big table spaces. So because they will be really slow. So the more data you have, it's not the more data, let's not make confusion with number of rows. You can have a lot of rows and not so much data, or you can have little number of rows, but you have binary there, blobs, things like that, it can be costly to query there, okay? So we really need to be careful with that, even with disk space. So to do this, what we are going to do here in our data model, so it's room. So instead of coming here and creating one attribute, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new entity that's called the room picture, okay? And on the room picture, I am going to create something that is the, the picture, okay? The picture itself, and picture will have the binary data there. Now, what I would need to do is if I put the room here, so I need to do the relation. So this is, as you can see, this is now one entity, and I need to relate that with this one. So what I can do is I can come here and in this ID that's of the long integer and an auto number, instead of that, I can just say that this is one room identifier. So this way I'm linking one-to-one with these two tables. So for one row here, I will only be able to have one row here, and that's exactly what I need. Now, remember I was talking about the delete rule. So if I delete a room, maybe it doesn't make sense, or I won't believe it makes sense to keep the binary of the picture there. So what I'm going to say is when I delete that, I'm going also to delete this row here. And if we look at the diagram, now what we'll have right here, as you can see, it's a 1-to-1. So there's not this symbol here. So 1-to-1 relation between the room and the picture, okay? So I will publish this. I'm not going to do any screens for now with pictures. That's not the purpose here. Okay, so for performance, again, remember that like this, when you need to query the room table, you will query this table. And if you have put in here that attribute, you are now querying on a table that would probably be massive and with a huge size, and the performance would be really bad. So everything that has to store data like this should always be separate from the ones that you need to query, okay? Now, going back to boss, he says, well, now it's the easy part, right? So what we need just to do here is we just need here to they have the name and the passport so they can book a room, right? So just to take you here for what we need to do, right? So what we need to do is we actually need to have a customer, right? So he said it's really simple. So for the customer, the only thing we will need is as an entity, it's the name. Let's leave it 50. And well, something like the passport. And also now what we need is to create a booking. And this is where we come to what's called a relationship from many to many. So it means that we'll have many on one side, many on the other, and we need to have a middle entity to make the relation between them. So we're going to create a new one that's called the booking. And the booking will have a customer. Each booking will have a room. And well, then the attributes of like the start on and on. Well, we could have something like prices or something like that. But for the sake of this example, that's what we're going to do. So if I drag this here, you can see that now I have a many-to-many relationship because I have a table that is doing that connection between them. And this one is really important to keep it protected, the foreign keys, because we don't want to lose the integrity of the data here. Okay, so I'm just going to publish this. So I've seen that I'm a little bit late on time, so I'm not going to show the screen to create, but it's just scaffolding here. Okay, the important part that I want to show you, it's the many-to-many relation. Okay, so one of the things is the boss now is asking, in this case, that well, the agents, when they're doing this, they have some difficulty in knowing how many beds, because if you see the table here, the booking has the customer and the room, but he is not being able to see how many beds the room has. Okay, so in this case, well, it's just an example of what's called denormalized for performance. So right now, what we have, remember that we have the beds here. They are on another table. So, and since this is one-to-many relation, right? Here we can see it better here. We will need to do on the query side, we'll need to do group bys to see for one room how many beds it has. So it's not that complicated, it's not that data, but what I want to show is an example, because maybe in reports and things that are a little bit more complex, maybe it makes sense to change the structure of the data to be able to accommodate some other attributes that will then allow you to have better performance while working with your data model. So in this case, the suggestion here, and again, this is just for the for performance sake, would be to actually create here a number of rooms, okay? And what we need to do is whenever we create a bed, we need to update this number. So, and when we create, delete the bed, we also need to update this number. So it gives us more work in terms of the logic, and it can be dangerous, but it can lead us to inconsistency between what we have in this column, in this table, and what we have in this column. But in terms of performance, again, when you are going to query, and this is a small example, and you can question if this was necessary here, maybe not, but it's just to give you an example of something in the future that you can see. And if you are doing too many joins and things maybe need complex, maybe the data model should be denormalized for performance sake, okay? It's just that the one thing that I wanted to leave you thinking a little bit about that. So, sorry, let's give me a second. So just to finalize, one of the things is, oh, now that you have done everything, Evan, I mentioned you something that is called the fact that we have two hotel brands. So yeah, so I want to have the same application because I want to replicate all my code, right? But I want to have two different hotels working on it. And I'm not mixing data. So for this, I'm just going to talk about the last concept that's called the multi-tenancy. So multi-tenancy, what allows you is on the same database, depending on the tenant that you have, data can be then separated from one another. And when you are querying the data, you are on a tenant. So you are querying this table and you are on this tenant, you only see the data for this tenant. If you are on this one, you will only see the data for this one and so on. So I'm not going to show everything about this. It's probably a topic for another session, but just to let you know that this is possible. So what you can do, it's on the entities themselves. So we have the more here. And one of the more options is that you can say that this is multi-tenant. And what this does is it's just going to put show here. If you see the structure, it has now automatically created a new field that is the tenant ID. And if I show you the data here, the data, well, I needed to publish to see the tenant. We'll now have a tenant here. So, and this, everything will be done behind the scenes. You don't need to be querying specifically the tenant. You just set, there's an action where you set the tenant that you are, and we are on, and after that, every time you query the database regularly with an aggregate or an advanced SQL, you are going to get the data just for your tenant. So again, not going to show and explain everything right now. We are really short on time and it's a complex subject, but it's again to keep you in your mind, in your back pocket. If you have something like this in the future, multi-tenancy might be the path and you can look at it. So just a quick recap of what we've been seeing here. So we talked a little bit about the entities and the attributes, how to create them. Then the fact that we can use static entities and what their impact on the data model and what it means to normalize our data model. We talked about indexes with the example of a unique index, relationships, one-to-many, one-to-one for performance also here, and many-to-many. Then we talk a little bit about denormalized for performance and finished with multi-tenancy. Again, these are topics that probably would need more time, but the idea also of this session is just to give you some thoughts about what this is and to think about problems that you might have related with this, so for future discussions. So there are some useful links here. Okay, we're going to share the presentation. It's linked to our own documentation that explains probably everything that I told you. And well, thank you for your time. Sorry for being past the time that we had for this. Sorry, David. And well, that's it from my side.
Awesome, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Bruno, for that very informative, fun topic on data model. For anybody who joined in the middle or towards the end, Bruno really touched on some tips and tricks there. Apart from the normal OutSystems keywords that we know, the entities, static entities, and whatnot. So thank you so much. I made sure to get a couple of tips and tricks and a couple of questions from the chat. I know you answered some of them, but let me see if I can grab one from Mark. Mark asked a question: why do we need to be careful when copy pasting entities in Service Studio when you're working? Can you remind the group?
Yes. So what happens is whenever when you create one entity, we assign a key to that entity, and then that key has a connection with the physical table on the database. What happens is when you copy and paste, we change the key because it's a copy and paste. And when you do a copy and paste, so basically whenever we paste, we change the key. So changing the key will change the name of the physical table. And now the logical table that you can see on Service Studio, if you want to call that, will point to another physical table. So it's going to do a new create table on the SQL server, on the Oracle server. And now it will be pointing to a table that has the same structure, but the data is not there because it isn't already another table. So we're not doing under the hood, we're not copying the data from one to another. We're just creating a new scheme, a new table. And so that's one of the heads ups that I wanted to share with you. This can be helpful because sometimes this is what allowed me to be able to change things in the table that is not allowing me because I have already some data there and I can change, for example, the data types.
Perfect. All right. So just to summarize, if you copy paste, you will have an older key referencing a new table that does not have data. And as soon as you hit publish, then you're in trouble.
Yes. You can recover the data because the table is not deleted from the database, but you need to log in the database with the user and query and you have to do what people spend nights to recover data.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Mark, I hope that answers your question. Let me move on to the next question real fast. Anderson, could we have different indexes for each tenant?
For each tenant. So the tenant will create, I believe, well, I can make sure that I'll check with the engineering team, but I think that we already, so we are exposing tenants when you are using, we are just exposing. So when you are not using, we are using it behind the scenes. So I would say that, yes, we have different indexes. It doesn't matter. The indexes are unique in each tenant, but I can make sure that I can talk with the engineering guys and see what's their answer on that.
Okay. Yeah. When you find the answer, just post it to me and I could post it back to the group as well.
Let me just point that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't even have to do that right now, but if you can get it, great. As we are transitioning to the next session. But before that, let me pick another question. My own question. Now, let me go to Anderson. Anderson has another question at the end there.
Okay. Also, when we delete an entity with wrong attributes and we try to recreate with the same name, we make it or inconsistency. Okay, so we are deleting an entity with wrong attributes and we try to recreate it with the same name.
If you delete an entity, then recreate it with the same name. I know it doesn't get deleted in the SQL database layer.
Okay, just trying to change the fields. Sometimes, yes. So usually, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer that question.
Okay. Anderson, let me see if I
let me check if I really understand how could we do this in a more without trial and error way. But because it really depends. I think it depends a little bit on the use case, but I'm sorry, Anderson, for not being able to answer you right now.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We're here to learn. If you create an entity, it does not hold data files. Yes, that's correct. Yep, I agree. Correct. Yeah.
Yes. So one of my strategies, it was like I was trying to explain. I didn't explain it really clear, but when I do changes, sometimes what I do is and this is even worse because you have to have the staging between environments, is I first do a change where I have more than one, the column, so 2 columns, and then I change the data from one to another using a timer, and then on the second one, I'm going to delete the one that I need to delete. So I don't try to do it at once. I do it always in 2 steps. I don't know if it will solve that specific problem, but at least that's the way that I try to do things when I need to change data on columns that already, even because I'm afraid of losing data.
Okay, perfect.
Ignore in the delete rule will, so Sonia, ignoring the delete rule will delete the values, or it will keep the value in the table like protect. Now delete will remove the row from the it will remove the row. It's like if you are really deleting the like if you go there and do delete in SQL.
Perfect, perfect. All right, any other questions coming in? Let's see, I had a question here and I probably answered it in some ways, but let me see if I can summarize it one more time. Oh my goodness, what was my question? Oh, can you briefly talk about things to prepare for?
Oh, sorry.
When migrating now the room data model from one out system?
Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry. I read again Sonia question.
Okay.
So ignore will leave the row on the table. So the row will be in the physical table. You cannot access it. So you need to query the database like with an advanced SQL. If you know the ID, it will leave the row there. Sorry, I was saying, I wasn't answering what was here. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Sorry, David, please.
Okay. Sonia, I hope that levels or you're in the same page with that. So the question was, so talk about things to consider when you're migrating the example room data model from one OutSystems environment to another. Just briefly, just talk about that before we jump into the next question.
So one of the things is that the databases between environments, they are not shared. So you need to pass the data. So you don't have out of the box the capability to pass data from one table, for example, in development and other in test. So one of the techniques is for your data that is like the base data, you can use a bootstrap method. So you can store data, for example, in Excel files, and you can create a timer that will run, a process basically that runs when you publish. So whenever you pass from development to test and then for production, it will run that, and it will populate, for example, data with the tables with the data that you have to start your application. There are some tools in Forge of people that are trying to solve this, like data migration managers. And so they are tackling this problem to try to take the data from one database to another. But right now, out of the box, the way that you have is just to bootstrap data. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. And
it's a complex topic and a very important one. And there are a lot of different, even internally discussions of what we should allow to do from data from one environment to other. In terms of security, security says nothing should come from dev to QA or in QA for production because of security's sake. For us that are developers, we hate because we have to bootstrap data all again. It's really complicated, and then we go to production and we have to bootstrap data again. So it really depends on how you look at it, but it's not a simple topic. It's something that is complex. It's correct.
Absolutely, I agree. I've had to deal with that use case myself the last couple of months in my project, and just going through the checklist. Forget the checklist, the OutSystems platform setup checklist. It's the Okay, so the use case was trying to copy, maybe let's say production setup without connecting to it so that we could run some load testing. And the challenge is just like you said, we cannot move things like configurations. There was big security concerns.
Right, yeah.
So, we had to problem solve that. Thanks for that. I will check out the Forge tools that you talked about because I know somebody in the team mentioned Bootstrap, but nobody mentioned the Forge tools. So I'll check out
Yeah.
what they're doing. So it's great to see the community solving problems out there. All right, it's top of the hour, 12:03 local time here in Dallas. If there's no other questions there, let's transition into the next fun session as we close. I'll keep this super brief. And this will be a fun Kahoot session. I will go ahead and share my screen and get your device ready, take out your phone or maybe open a new tab. And then really quick, just join in a fun Kahoot session where the goal is to, Bruno created the questions, which will be like a fun game round. See how much you learned today. Let me find it. All right, I'm sharing my screen here. Just confirming you can see my screen, please.
Yep.
All right, so just go to your app or browser, type in kahoot.it, enter that code, and be waiting for you on the other side. Where is the music? There's supposed to be music here. I hope that's skip the atmosphere, less technical now, but also you never know the kind of questions that are coming. When Bruno sent me these questions as we are wrapping up, and we will end this session in 14 minutes, but I tried to make the theme of this session all about Dallas. Dallas will be half hosting part of the 2026 World Cup. Very super excited about that. I already Googled where to get the tickets as a soccer fan. Therefore, that's like a big deal right now in Dallas. Just so you know that. All right, let's see if we can start this session. We have enough people. My goodness, can I get rid of this? All right. Model your data like a pro. Drum rolls. So, let's see. What kind of naming convention should be used in database entries? Six answers, awesome, great, guys. Engaging, all right, the answer is D. 4 people got it right, good job. Next. True or false question. If a developer in Service Studio adds another attribute to an entity and published, all data will be lost. Is that true or false? Dallas 2026, just a reminder there. Oh, good job. Man, people are listening, nice. Which one of this is a known relationship pattern between entities? Bit of that. Awesome. A known relationship pattern between entities. Pay one, get two. I don't know where I think that one. Awesome. Great. Many to nanny. That one got me too. That one got me too when I was creating this question. But good job. Next question. Whenever there's a need to add a constraint for an attribute in an entity to be unique, we should use what? You can read that question again on your device. Love these choices. The person designing these questions wants you to pass this exam. Perfect. As we like it here at Dallas OSUG. Let's see, next question. Got 4 more to go. Double round points, perfect. Which one of this is not a delete rule in OutSystems foreign keys? And as you're thinking about the answer there, see Dallas 2026 again. Thank you for that. The answers there. Perfect. 3 more. The duration of a cache is defined in design time in. This could be a question that's picked from the community or Bruno. I don't remember. I know that we shuffle these questions. All right. Perfect. Bruno, I apologize if that's yours. The way I designed this Kahoots. All right, if a developer in Discover Studio selects cut in an entity and then paste, all data will be lost. Do not be distracted by the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders there. Very hardworking support team there. Good job. Love this. All right. I think we have one final question. Okay, two more. Imagine our hotel use case. If we wanted to add up in each room only one minibar, what would be the relationship pattern? A minibar. Hassan, I love that question. Got to think about the data model. What was the answer? Let's see. Okay, 1-to-1. Got it. Perfect. Huh. Okay. Next. Final question. If we create an entity for products for that minibar, what would that relationship pattern be? Love these questions. Products for the minibar.
There's a question about the check at the bill at the hotel after you leave. It's a minibar.
One too many. Sorry, Bruno, I didn't catch it. Let me go to next and then you'll explain what you just said because we are learning at every point. I'll come back to the minibar question. Sonia, congratulations. Sam, congratulations. You guys did great. 9 out of 9. 8888. Congratulations, Haman. Good job. Good job. Let me take a screenshot of these guys. And do you guys mind inboxing me your real names so that I could get in touch with you after, please? But thank you all. Stop sharing. Thank you for that. Wasn't that fun round? Technical, fun session, and Walt Hammond, perfect. Technical fun, and we do this once every 3 to 4 months. So we look forward to the next session where we, after the speaker speaks, we have some really good, awesome round questions. Some of my words. All right, at this juncture, we are 1 minute over. Thank you everyone who made time to come to this session. Bruno, thank you for creating time and being a resource for this speech, for this session. We love the technical tips and tricks and answering all the questions. Thank you so much. This was a success. And as you go back to your projects, I wish you guys all the best and have a great, wonderful day. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here and
so
everyone that attended this. Really, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Sonia. Who else? Walt and Sonia. Somebody else? The third. Okay, got it. Thank you, guys. All right. I will leave the room open for about 1 minute.
Okay.
Awesome, Walt. That was a good job too. The data model, you know, before this, I really wanted the question or the answer. Oh, my question was, I hope we learn something new for such a classic topic, you know, because some people will be like, okay, data model, what's there to know, what's new? But it runs in the core of every part of the requirements gathering process where you're modeling these things, as well as the developers who will use the logic and the user stories to model the data. So thank you all. Feel free to drop off. Sonia, absolutely. We will get in touch with you after this. Follow us. Where are you writing to us from? Everybody was saying where they're from. And Walt, I didn't get where you're from as well. Just for the city that you are in right now.
Walt's in Paducah, Kentucky.
Okay.
Is it?
India, got it. Oh, he said Kentucky. He was the first one here. Yes.
Right.
Was that the Kentucky? Paducah, got it. Thank you so much. We got people from everywhere. Bruno, what did you think about that session?
Well, for me, it was interesting because I also had to go back to some of the concepts, and the what I wanted to share, and hopefully that message passed, is what's happening behind the scenes and those things like what you're doing in Service Studio, what they're doing in the server. Because for those who know a lot about database, about modeling, they know what's one-to-one, one-to-many, so they know that, right? But I think maybe those caveats of, if you do this in Service Studio, this happens, this, you can go there to create an index. I've encountered people that sometimes it's a little bit hidden where you create the indexes. So they struggle to find it. So hopefully it allowed to show where it is. And most important is, and I like that on the sessions that I attend, is sometimes I don't get 100% sure of what was told, but I got the words. And I have a project and something, and I say, okay, multi-tenancy, I heard about it. Maybe this needs multi-tenancy, or maybe this needs, I need to do something like there's performance here. What can I do? Normalize, denormalize. So at least to help us searching for more information in the future. I think that was my goal. And everyone, well, we have some questions, and I don't think no one dropped out of the session. So it was really cool.
That's great, because I've noticed with the other sessions, I usually check the participation, and we are lucky to have people who stay throughout, meaning the communities respect good content and engaging content, just like myself too. So I'm here to learn as well as to help facilitate. So you did a great job from my perspective.
Thank you.
You tackled the topic. You kept going back to the topic because it's easy to get lost in the technicals. So, and then you touched on the entity, an ID, the model with us that needs just one static entity, and you could just use that example in many other contexts. So that was great. We would love to have you next time. What other topics do you like in your career, or you can maybe talk to us in the future?
I have to tell, well, again, I'm not an expert in anything. I've done a lot. So I've done professional, so I've done projects. So I've been a front-end expert. I've worked in engineering. So there are components like the data grid, the maps. That was the team that I was part of that built. So there's a lot of topics. It's just a matter of of choosing one. And for sure, I would be glad to talk about it, because it's, again, I get enthusiasm. It's in the enthusiasm about talking about the things. And
perfect. All right. Well, it's lunch hour now in Dallas, Texas. Thanks very much, everyone. I will close this meeting room. It was fun again, Bruno. We hope to see you.
Thank you very much.
Soon. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you all that attended the session.
Happy lunch if you're here, and good night or whenever time you're doing. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.